Welcome back, everyone, to Kannaway Champions. I hope that you appreciate the variety of guests we've had. We've had Olympic champions like Amy Van Dyken, who not only won 6 gold medals, but has shown that gold medal fortitude through her reaction, response, and diligence, persistence, character when she became paralyzed from the waist down and has become the second fittest wheelchair athlete on the planet. By the way, taking our CBD products, which didn't hurt. And then we had any number of great people like Sean Callaghy, who became legally blind, and yet his whole mission is about helping us all unblind ourselves to what really matters, which is heart-centered listening. And then last week, we had Harris Faulkner talk about how difficult it is during an age of misinformation to be an ethical journalist who has grace and respect for all sides during a toxic partisan climate. So we're very blessed because the purpose of this show is how do we endure? How do we transcend? How do we get to a better place even than we've ever been during the worst of times? And most people would say, and I think Sharon Lechter, who is a world or global expert on financial literacy, who's written 25 books, 32 million books sold, including Outwitting the Devil, my favorite, just because it really helped in the paradigm for me. When she wrote with Robert Kiyosaki, Think and Grow Rich, also was complemented by, well, you tell the name of the book, Sharon.
Rich Dad, Poor Dad was the first one. Yeah, Rich Dad, Poor Dad was the first in 14 of those books.
And probably should now be called Rich Dad, Poor Mom, because today's show is about a woman that has helped change the paradigm of financial literacy. We together have done more than a decade of training for Native American children to help them embrace the confidence to be great leaders in their communities. And I think you're seeing that. I think you're seeing more Native American kids told that they weren't that special, told that their time in history had run its course, to seize their destiny, seize their confidence as well. And you've done that for thousands and thousands of women, maybe even millions of women and men as well around the country. But we're very blessed to have Sharon Lechter, who's worked for 2 U.S. presidents on financial literacy, who's really helped, I think, change the importance of this on the priorities of a presidency and of a culture. So Sharon, thank you so much for joining us.
Well, Nick, you ask, I'm going to say yes, always to support you on the incredible work that you do. And you are tireless in your desire to inspire people and give back. And certainly for those Native American youth, we have created and opened opportunities for them that are incredible. So thanks.
We're going to talk about Thrive Time in a little bit, but, I think about this week of Thanksgiving, giving thanks. I give thanks for you, for your heart, for your ability, Sharon Lechter, to define success as not losing that heart and soul behind who you are as you fight through the difficulties of business, the hardcore decisions that have to be made, the calculations that have to be made. It just means a lot. And so for me this week, Thanksgiving is our Thanksgiving Champions for the Homeless. And as I've been getting ready with the COVID restrictions that St. Vincent de Paul's homeless shelter has, we're going from 400 to 500 volunteers down to 20, plus our band, amazing band. And there is an 18% increase in shelterless homeless. There's a 20 to 30% increase in the last 9 months of suicide. There's a 30% increase in suicide among veterans from the Army. There are just huge challenges. And I know as I drive down there, as I've done now each of the last few weeks to prepare for these events, to celebrate and honor and bring a human face to our homeless brothers and sisters, that so many of them are homeless for the first time. And they're homeless with graduate degrees. They're homeless with prior successful careers, as well as, the rich variety of human beings from all cultures and phases as well. So it's such good timing to have someone of your caliber to talk about the importance of managing our state as human beings with the Think and Grow Rich principles that we'll go into, but also, of course, managing our wealth or lack thereof. So Sharon, tell us, as you have gone from, training as an accountant, training as a CPA, training in the business of managing money and liabilities and assets, et cetera, how has your paradigm shifted from those early years to being literally a worldwide leader in financial literacy?
Well, Nick, thanks for that question. I really didn't understand how much I knew about money compared to everyone else until I got out into the real world as a CPA and started realizing people did not understand how to have money work for you instead of you always exchanging time for money. I grew up in a very lower middle class home, but I lived in a little tiny house between my dad's used car lot and my mom's beauty shop. We had rental properties that I had at 10 years old, had to go scrub out between tenants. And we had orange groves and we sold oranges every year. And so I was steeped in this knowledge of understanding the power of having businesses that work for you, having assets that work for you. And so it was just a natural state of my training from home, because we don't teach money in school. We still don't teach money in school. And so as I got out into the real world, I realized how few people understood the power of buying, building, creating assets. They live their life changing time for money. And what happens when you're an employee, there's nothing wrong with being an employee. It's not what you do for your paycheck. It's what you do with your paycheck that counts. And too many people spend more than they earn. And so when we have a crisis like we've had this year, where people who thought they had a safe, secure job ended up getting furloughed, ending up on unemployment, not because of anything they did, just because of the circumstance. It brought home the reality that this is the time to start redesigning your life. What can you do to create something that helps others? Because the most successful businesses solve a problem or serve a need. So you may be an employee, but you also have the opportunity to start a business on the side. We have a few problems right now. We have a few needs. And so start an opportunity to help solve those problems, and you start making a revenue model. You create this asset called a business, and all of a sudden you're investing your time to create, buy, and build an asset versus spending your time and exchanging it for money, because that's the rat race. Because if you don't get out of bed, you don't get paid, and you're giving up control. So when it comes to money, you either control your money or it controls you. There's not much in between. And I'm very passionate about young people, giving them the opportunity, because you've heard the phrase, the rich get richer, the poor get poorer. Well, that's because we're learning at home. And if we truly want to make this world equal opportunity for every child,
yes.
If we truly want every child to have the opportunity to create and realize their dreams, we have to start teaching all our children in school about money. And it's not the greed side of money, but it's the value side of money, how to buy, build, and create assets that will give them the opportunity to not just be financially confident, but to be in a position to help others as well.
Sharon, let me ask you this question. When I see a problem that seems obvious to me, I assume maybe it's not as obvious to others, but then over time, when it keeps coming back over and over and over, and you see it in the lack of skill sets in our politicians themselves. For instance, John McCain, who I have a lot of respect for, when he talked about creating jobs when he was running for president, but he would never define that in any detail, which has made it very difficult for me to want to vote for him, simply because I loved him, but I also wanted to have specifics. What are we going to do? So with that, and this is, once again, John McCain, I think, is a great leader in so many ways, and proud of him for what he's done for the state and his individual acts of courage in many ways. But shifting to this interesting phenomena that it almost seems, and I want to ask you if you believe this to be true or not, that it's a deliberate policy in our education system to teach skill sets that 99% of those in school will never use on a regular basis, if not even higher, in math, rather than, as I've learned in my own pedagogical studies at Harvard, that if we give students skill sets that they employ all the time, like hitting a backhand against the backboard 100,000 times versus 100 times, we get better to the point where we have command over that. Yet we do not teach the most important math of all, which is financial literacy. We do not teach how to balance a checkbook. And you and I have been talking about this together. You've been doing it much longer than me. So is this a deliberate policy? And even if it isn't, how can we change this so that everyone around us understands that our children need to learn this, so that the so-called capitalist capital in the United States really has the capitalist skills to be businessmen, one person at a time, which right now does not exist?
Well, let me start with your comments about John, because I totally agree. His idea was government creating jobs, which actually is not a Republican philosophy, but that was his.
Right.
Government, I want the government to allow free enterprise. And that free enterprise allows free markets and companies to grow and create jobs. The jobs need to be created by business owners, not by the government. Because when we create jobs through business owners, then we have the opportunity for vitality and ongoing creation of additional jobs, additional revenue, consumer advocates, right, allowing free enterprise to thrive. And you'll see unemployment will come down from that perspective. Okay, when the government's creating the job, there's no free enterprise. It's got to come out of our pockets through taxes. Let's create value through free enterprise, and then we create the jobs. But when it comes to, yes, public education was created during the industrial age to train employees to be conformists, to do what you're told, not to be creative, not to be innovative. And that's the thing that I see happening to our children. When they first go to school, they're excited. They build forts out of blankets and pillows, and they're playing with crayons. And they get to school and they start being taught conformity. Now, yes, in living in a society, you need to learn how to get along with other people. But that conformity the creativity starts getting downplayed.
Yes. And
and then they get out into the real world and they have a career and they get comfortable and then they get complacent. You drive to the same office every day. Half the time you forget how you even forget driving there because it's just the same thing every day. Then we have a crisis like what we've had this year. Our lives are thrown into chaos. And how do we get out of it? By becoming curious and creative again.
Yes.
So as adults, you and I know we dedicate our time to do this. For anybody, young person that you care about, help them maintain their creativity, their curiosity,
yes,
because that's what's going to get them to want to do more, with more, create more, provide more. And that's creativity, curiosity, and expanding with limitless opportunity. Too many of us put these shackles or blindfolders on ourselves, but step outside your comfort zone and create the opportunities that are right there. Seize them.
When you combine creativity with business savvy, you become automatically a powerful person. And you also create from day one of that unity, a self-concept that you are in charge of finding the most important answers in your life. And that, to me, is a fundamental discord with the culture we're fighting against right now, which is, yes, we need to protect and stay safe from a pandemic that 97% recover from, and 94% have high morbidity rates because they have comorbidities and they're elderly. But unfortunately, all of these other impacts are impacting the people that are equally important to the people that unfortunately and too often tragically may die from COVID, which is losing your business. I think the latest statistic is 25% of small businesses have closed permanently.
Mm-hmm.
So tell us about that. How do we get our president, get our government to work as a partner rather than as a dictator to create avenues for this creativity, which in the end is the only way to expand opportunity, expand new solutions in an era not of COVID, but of AI and new allies, if you will, in creating never before thought of business opportunities.
Well, I think that's a fantastic idea, concept, and dream. I don't think it's going to be reality given the administration that's coming in from a standpoint of they're going to be higher government regulation. So instead of working as partnership, in which we want, I think we need to have that. We need to allow free enterprise to help solve. Some of our most successful companies today came out of the Great Depression. And many others started in 2008 and 9 when we had another great recession. And so now is a time for us to find out how we can create value and not rely on the government. Let's go out there and find it and create it on our own, because it is all of us coming together and working in partnership and collaboration. This is the time of collaboration, not competition. And we truly need to come together, educate our kids, but also create opportunities for businesses to grow and prosper. And yes, I keep saying, where's our advocates for these small business owners? Where are the advocates that are going to help them through these very difficult times? And it just breaks my heart when I see it.
Well, let's talk about one of the key philosophies that you and I share. Last summer, I was on the Think and Grow Rich tour with John Shin and Sharon Lechter and an amazing group of people. And you were one of the leaders of that for sure. I did a mastermind with you and just helped out briefly in Las Vegas, but you live these principles. Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, one of the great, if not the first truly great self-help book, thinking about literally how I live my life and what are my true powers. Let's talk about what are the principles from Think and Grow Rich that you live by every single day that everyone can employ in their lives starting right now.
Well, I think the first thing, too many people don't really have a goal. They don't know what they want. So definiteness of purpose, burning desire is so important. And you and I are, we are on fire with our desire and our burning desire. And so particularly young people, they don't really know what they want to do. They've either been enabled or they've been not provided the opportunity to remain curious and creative. And so finding that passion, in my book, 3 Feet from Gold, we talk about combining your passion and your talent, then finding the right associations. One of the associations I value tremendously is my association with you, Nick, times taking action, plus F for faith, having faith in yourself, having faith and confidence in what you're doing that is needed and necessary. In today's world, too many people don't have the right associations and they don't have the self-confidence in themselves. And so when you think about the Think and Grow Rich principles, it's understanding how to deal with adversity, how to overcome adversity, how to be decisive, making decisions, having that burning desire, right? Going the extra mile, being proactive in your life, not reactive, understanding the power of mastermind, the power of working together. Because you and I are not two people together. We create massive results because we both bring our connections, our experience, our knowledge together, and we have exponential results. So 1 + 1 is not 2, it's 11. And so each of these principles, when you think, where am I lacking? How can I go to the next level? A lot of times it's where your brain is. And when Napoleon Hill released 3 Feet from Gold, he was frustrated because he said, even though I have these principles for success, people aren't following them. And he realized fear holds people back. That F, faith, is actually fear in most people. And in 1938, he actually sat down and wrote the book, Outwitting the Devil, which was hidden away for 73 years because his wife was afraid of the title. But I was able to bring it out after all that time. It's called Outwitting the Devil. And in it, he talks about fear. And in it is an interrogation of the devil. And he says, you can believe I'm talking to the real devil or an imaginary devil. but will you derive any benefit from what I share? And on page 61 in this interrogation, the devil says, at one point during life, I'm going to combine the fear of poverty and the fear of death to bring people to their knees. Well, hello, 2020. And we add to that the fear of isolation to that. And you have all these young people that are used to being out around with their friends, and now they're like sequestered. It's been a very difficult, fear-filled year. And this book helps people start realizing, okay, how can I take control of my life? Because this year, the silver lining is it's a time to reevaluate what you want out of life. You know, prior to this, the book also talks about the fear of criticism. Prior to 2020, I thought the fear of criticism was the most pervasive fear we were dealing with in today's world. Well, not anymore. 2020, that's gone, because everybody has a global reset. What do you want out of life? Are you taking inventory of who you are? Are you taking inventory of, are you passionate about what you're doing? Definiteness of purpose, mastery over self, controlling your environment. That's a huge one. Are you surrounding yourself with negativity? Are you reading the negative and listening to negative news all the time? Are you surrounding yourself with people who want you to succeed? People are going to challenge you, push you out of your comfort zone. And then how are you spending your time? Are you spending it? Are you one of the ones that said they changed their day pajamas for night pajamas and they were, binge watching Netflix, right? That's wasting time. Or are you investing your time to say, okay, I now have the time to figure out what I really want out of life. What am I really passionate about? How can I create something for my future? And in doing that, you become on the front of the wave instead of being overtaken by the wave. And you have an opportunity to create the life you desire. So this book has just been exploding this year because it talks about definiteness of purpose, mastery over self, learning from adversity, controlling your environment, controlling your time. And it's so important for us. If we want to create a better life, we need to be able to control the fear and turn it into faith.
I've been thinking of Hawaii lately for many reasons. I've been asked to MC the hula ball this year, and it got me thinking about my memories of Hawaii and a great lesson from that, which was when I finally made it in the National Football League, Sharon, after being cut by 8 teams 11 times. I'm in Sports Illustrated. I'm on 2020, talking about the loneliest player in football and the interesting isolation of the kicker, by the way. And then going to the Pro Bowl in Hawaii, the surreal feeling around 17 Hall of Famers, Jack Lambert, Earl Campbell, Dan Fouts, and on and on and on. Then kicking the game-winning field goal. And I have on film, I was sent this just 2 weeks ago. Jack Lambert, one of the scariest players in history from the Steel Curtain Pittsburgh Steelers, after I kicked the field goal, he was on the field goal team. He turns around and like a little kid runs and almost squeezes, breaks my ribs. But the funny thing was, when we got to the locker room and there were 20, 25 television cameras there, I'm thinking this is just such a wonderful moment. It's not winning the Super Bowl, but it's a great highlight. It's a bucket list thing. And yet, as soon as those cameras left the locker room, and as soon as my teammates began to leave, I felt this incredible vacancy in my heart and my soul. And I realized that even though this was a mountaintop, my parents weren't there to celebrate. My best friends, except my buddy Bob Grupp, who was a teammate on the Chiefs, no one was there to celebrate with me. And I realized that in this effort to have self-mastery, part of that is understanding that success itself is absolutely unsatisfying and empty if part of the goal setting is I'm going to have that ranch like you do in northern Arizona to celebrate my family, to celebrate success in terms of my soulful needs, my emotional needs, my family needs. And so few people understand that till they're too late. And they spent their whole lives till they're 50 or 60 or 70, and they achieved their goals, except they forgot the biggest goal of all, which is the sense of contribution and connection to the people that we truly love, the sense of learning and being a mentor to others so they can taste that sense of true, lasting success that no one can take from us. So I bet you have a few memories like that. Can you tell me after Rich Dad Poor Dad, what it was like to become such a celebrity and what that felt like? And was there any similar sort of sense, is that all there is?
Well, I think you go through that transition when you arrive at a level you never expected and you say, you know, whoa, what's next? And you know, I'm very fortunate that I was raised by very, very stable parents who basically said, you know, people that are celebrities put their pants on the same way everybody else does. And so humility and was just part of my DNA. But at the same time, you know, I've learned through lots of life lessons with other people who don't share those philosophies that, you know, life is about how you live on the inside, much more important than how you live on the outside. And, you know, when you have accomplishments, people, many times when I'm being interviewed, what's your greatest accomplishment? And my answer may sound flippant, but it's real. It's the next one, right? It's not bragging about the awards I've won, and I'm humbled and honored to have them. And but because they help me spread the need for financial education and financial literacy. But just this morning, I got an email from a young woman who said, I was suicidal, I was depressed, and I can't tell you how much Outwitting the Devil and 3 Feet from Gold has changed my life. Out of the blue, this email comes, that's my greatest accomplishment today, right now.
I think of Matthew McConaughey, who's, I've just seen him evolve from a dynamic actor to one of the truly great actors on the planet. But there's a lot of philosophy behind that. I mean, his first major film role, his father died the 3rd day of filming. And so his message is, the success is the journey. I think of Forrest Gump and the image of him running forever. And yet, in some ways, all of the miraculous things that happened to him, but it was in embracing the journey through life. And the next one, as you say, that's the most important thing. And I remember when he gave his Oscar speech and said, what I'm doing today is to make that person 7 years from now proud of me.
Yeah.
Think of that and how important that is. So for all of you that are listening, you're listening to a woman who 50 years ago, the culture was that women aren't supposed to be in business for the most part. The culture was that women, we're just learning to participate in the political process. There were a few exceptions, but we are in a different age today because women stood up and said, we can do more, we demand more, and then they became the role models themselves. And now you have women directors in Hollywood, finally, and you have a different sense of women taking control and frankly, sometimes having better answers. I think there are 20 women now as senators in the United States Senate. I mean, I'd like to see it a much higher percentage as well. Tell us about them, that experience for you of being a woman in a male dominated industry, particularly, in the CPA industry itself, what that's been like for you and how your leadership as a woman at the highest level, what you've learned about how to inspire others to also feel their power, engage their power, and live their power.
Well, Nick, that's a great series of questions. And let me just share that I was one of the very first women hired by a big 8 accounting firm in the Southeast United States. So I definitely was on the forefront of women in public accounting. But I go back to my father. My parents said you can do or be anything you want to be. And yes, I was only woman in my accounting classes all through college. But I accepted the fact that I had to work harder than the guys that came along with me because I had this like prejudice against me. But I didn't see that as something to complain about. I said, okay, I accept the challenge. Right? I'm going to do what I need to be successful. And when I wrote Think and Grow Rich for Women, it was to get that element out there that the steps to success are the same for men and women, but we approach them very differently. And I was getting frustrated with the number of women that continue complaining and criticizing the men that stand in their way. Because if you understand the law of attraction, when you're negative, what do you attract? Negativity. I said, so let's stop complaining and criticizing these guys that are in our way. Karma's going to catch up with them, but let's celebrate the men like Nick who celebrate women. Let's applaud and celebrate the progress that we have made. Is there more to make? Absolutely. But if we celebrate the progress that we've made and we celebrate the men that have helped us along the way, we're going to have more progress more quickly. And the other thing is, it's not women against men. The stats are there. It's been proven. It's when men and women work together and we're both at the table, we get the greatest results.
Yep. Yep.
Because you have the brilliance of both mindsets. And so that's the thing we need to share. And I want women to stand in their own power. Don't get negative and blame other people, because that you're giving up your power when you're laying blame. Take control of what you want, create what you want, and go for it. And understand that there are people there willing to support you and to achieve. And that's what Think and Grow Rich for Women was all about, to give women stories. I have over 300 women in the book, but helping them say, oh, if she can do that, so can I. The next one, maybe that doesn't apply to me, but it gives food for thought on how to approach steps to create success in your life.
And when intentionally you put it out there and say, why am I different? Why am I successful? Why am I able to work with men? Your brain will always search that. Who were role models at the top of that list for you of women, and why? Who were they that found that impact on you with their example that inspire you still today?
Well, there are two that are very impactful for me. There are lots that were of history that I can share. But Sandra Day O'Connor is just an incredible woman, definitely a forward leader for women, understanding how to be strong and graceful. Right? She talked about civil discourse, right? But she was strong in her femininity, strong in her power, and she excelled. First female to the Supreme Court. Barbara Barrett, another dear friend of mine, all right, and definitely came up through a man's world and is just an icon. Both of those women are huge role models for me. And I believe that they have grown through grace. And that's my whole, I just did an event called Grace with Purpose. I want women to stand in their own power and understand that we don't have to be crass. We don't have to be negative. Be strong, be feminine, be focused on what you want to accomplish and do it with grace.
Tell us about Barbara Barrett. That's Intel?
Yes. Well, Barbara Barrett's husband was the retired CEO of Intel. But Barbara on her own went on to, she was one of the ambassador for Norway. She is now the head of the new space, the head of the Air Force and the new space division in the government. She qualified to become an astronaut. She was a fighter pilot, landed on one of the ships. She's just incredible. And she has donated millions of dollars in creating, with her husband, the Honors College at ASU. But she has always been absolutely a stalwart supporter of women. She helped create the International Foundation for Women, and she has always been a leading example of strength and grace.
What about today on the political scene? Who of the female senators or congressmen do you think can help offer, if you will, an example of that grace with strength? Tough question.
Yeah, it's a tough question, and I really don't have an answer. I don't see anybody that's in the political chairs today that I have a tremendous amount of respect for. I am concerned about the future of our country. So I really do. From a female perspective, I can't think of anybody that I would put in. Now, I would say Kimberly Yee, who is the state treasurer for the state of Arizona, is absolutely brilliant. And
we met her. Let's talk about how we met her. So this is an example, and I bring this up for a reason, that theoretically, okay, Kimberly Yee, but here's the reality. Sharon Lechter said, we need to get more financial literacy training in high school. And you kindly asked me to help, and I absolutely wanted to help. And we met with her to get the first bill passed by the legislature in Arizona.
Yeah,
and it was the beginning.
Yeah, she was a state senator at the time, And so she helped us. We were, I was basically the primary driver, but she represented and sponsored the bill. And we were able to get that changed. And it was to require personal financial education for high school graduation. But now we want to take the next step and get it as a separate class requirement. With everything going on, our efforts were stalled this year, but I have not given up and I won't. But Kimberly Yee is now the state treasurer for the state of Arizona. And we have I'm on her financial education task force. And she is totally supportive of what we're doing for K through 12. We now have the treasurer's office is now the primary group responsible for financial literacy and financial education in the state of Arizona. And so we're looking at things that we can do to strengthen the education that's available to our students. And she's incredible, very, very accomplished and very dedicated to creating value and financial literacy for our children.
Why do you think people would not want our children, our next generation, to be more sophisticated in understanding financial literacy and being able to manage their debt? When getting out of college, the average debt is, I think, something around $70,000, and it's probably closer to $200,000 if it's graduate school. Why? What is the argument?
You have to see that my hair is white now. That's because of this topic. Everybody, when you have this conversation, say, "Oh yeah, that's right. That should happen. That should happen." And then when you start dealing with the government, you have, yes, the kids need it, but we don't want the teachers to have to do anything else. Now, but I'm going to tell you something. The teachers all agree the kids need it, but it's the administrators and the unions that keep us from making those changes. And so it's going to have to be a groundswell from parents, aunts, uncles, interested adults saying, and don't strike me down, but the vast majority of those high schoolers would get much more benefit from personal finance training than calculus.
Yeah.
Right? I took calculus. Math was my gig before I went into accounting. But let's be real. We need to make sure these children are prepared to thrive in the world they face. So yes, I want to add it to the current requirements, but if I had to replace something, I would, because that's how important I think personal financial training is. And we just need to continue beating the drum and getting as many people as we can to help us join the fight.
Yeah, absolutely. The skill sets also that automatically follow by studying financial literacy, you learn multiplication, division, etc., but you learn it in the context of skill sets you will actually employ. And so in the end, I think it's going to have to be that people see that it's more important to start with that and build with the idea that eventually you get to those things, like I took at the Kennedy School at Harvard, taking calculus. And I might say also another interesting paradigm in learning, which is completely different from the real world, is most of the great achievements are a cooperative team effort, whether it's in medicine with the vaccine as a great timely example, or whether it's in any other realm. What we would call cheating in school, you're working with that other person, is actually what actually happens. And by the way, what are the other skill sets? Learning to work with other people, which is the way we prosper in life. If we are brilliant and we have a 280 IQ and we have all the capacity to solve the problems of the world, but no capacity to work with anyone else, then whatever we see will never be employed and used. I think one of the great things about Einstein was his personality. His personality was accessible. He was a rebel, but he understood and enjoyed the diversity of the human experience because that's who he was. That's why he was a failure in math early on. And yet he realized his creativity in the brain, his insatiable curiosity, was something he could never abandon. And so, of course, is there anyone thought of more highly in that realm than Einstein?
Yeah, and it all comes back to the power of association. We live in a world that's way too fast paced to wait to do things and learn things on your own. The way you want to make a greater impact is to join forces with others, people that are strong where you are weak, and having that opportunity to really exponentially grow and make a largest impact. I mean, I started the Play Big movement because people want to be number one in their field. They want to live their legacy, but to create maximum impact, is playing big together, understanding who needs to be in your camp. How can you support someone else and therefore support yourself?
And these are challenging paradigm shifts, because in medicine, for instance, I want to be the one that discovered the cure to cancer. And yet all these different amazing achievements are not cooperated together and integrated together so that we get to solutions to fight cancer more quickly. Instead, we're in our own little codicils of competition, and competition is part of it, but the creativity and the cooperation are just as important.
Yes, they are. Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. And even more important into the future, because it's coming together and supporting each other and finding ways to add value. When I was raised by a father who would ask me each night, have you added value to someone's life today, Sharon? He's been gone for 14 years, but I still ask myself that every night. Have I added value to someone's life today? And wouldn't the world be a better place if everybody thought about that? Have I added value to someone's life today?
I want to talk about some of your causes, but before I get to that, let's talk about Thrive Time. Thrive Time is a game that we play for a half day, thanks to you and Angela Totman, your incredible assistant, who's just awesome. It's great to see, you're number two. If you're looking for that in business, by the way, having a number two that's trustworthy, incredibly hardworking, listens well. Angela has blossomed. I know you've known her for a long time, and I want to give her some credit for being that person that helps you be even more successful. Talk to us about Thrive Time and why it's organized that way. To me, it's almost the antithesis of Monopoly, which is all about one person dominating and crushing others. Tell us about Thrive Time.
Well, Thrive Time is really something. I built the Rich Dad organization. We had the cash flow games, and we had the cash flow for kids, but we didn't have there was the messaging for the teenager, and that's such an important group. And so this game, when I left Rich Dad, I developed this game as a money and time reality game. And I built it with a lot of humor in it so that kids understand that they're not victims. Every decision they make either drives them to success or not. And so in playing this game, they learn about assets, stocks, businesses, income, but they also learn that sometimes you have to pay the piper. You drop your cell phone in the toilet, it's going to cost you money. Right? You go to a party you shouldn't go to. You have a ticket you have to pay, right? All of these things, it brings a lot of humor. Sometimes you learn more than you want to around the table, but it shows them the consequences of decisions that they make, both with money and time, in a safe environment, play money way. And so we've won all kinds of awards, but the best one is these kids, when they first start playing it, there's like, this is, got to think too hard. Then within 10 minutes, they're all standing up and they're excited and they're into this game. And I just love it. I just love to see the transformation.
And part of it is, as someone who's taught leadership with Native youth and diverse populations now for 20 something years, the random, chaotic, unpredictable circumstances and events that you just touched on. You have a traffic accident, you have a party that instead of you thought was going to cost you $200 and somebody broke something and now suddenly you've got a $2,000 bill, and how you manage debt, etc. And it's so close to reality. I think for those of you that teach, for those of you managers, giving situational context-driven challenges is very important. My friend Pete Carroll, one of the great coaches in the National Football League, what he did and what he does today as well with Seattle, what he did with the New York Jets was always give the practice a real situation, a score, a time, third down, and 24 yards, certain defense. And if that mentality is, Bill Belichick does that, probably the greatest coach of all time, so that your players and the people you evaluate, by the way, through this process, you see those like Teddy Bruschi, who always seem to be around the ball, by the way, a University of Arizona graduate. They always seem to make the big play. Gronkowski, by the way, another University of Arizona graduate. But you're looking for players that not only pass the test during the week, but then they love employing those that preparation in the real time of the game. So they anticipate in the game, even when a lot that they see in the game is nothing they practiced for. So that type of learning taps into what? It taps into the confidence of the creative ability of our brain, the creative capacity of our brain, the ad lib part of our brain. And why should we be automatons and robots only able to react and respond to something we've been prepared for? One thing about COVID, we could not or did not prepare for this. Certainly, so many things that have happened, we could never prepare for. And what I love about Sharon Lechter, ladies and gentlemen, is understanding that she may have a skill set in finance, but it's also empowering everyone to have faith and reaffirmation of their unique gifts as well. Sharon, as we begin to wrap up this wonderful conversation, just tell us how you would advise someone, if you're mentoring someone, a young woman, a young man, to bring out their best self, to find their destiny faster, to be a leader independent of whatever's happening in the real world, no matter how difficult it is during this time or what other challenges we face. What is your advice?
Well, I would start with the personal success equation. You can get a worksheet that I created at personalsuccessequation.com, but allows you to really do an assessment of what your superpower is, what's your passion, and what do you bring to the table, your education, your talents, and then who do you hang out with and who do you need to hang out with? Reviewing your associations and actions. How are you spending your time? What actions are you taking? And then that faith, which is your self-confidence. And too many times we're saddled by fear. But I use this formula with every one of my clients that pay me $100,000 a year, people that are paying me for an online course. This is the basis of understanding where you are today and charting a course for where you want to go. Your passion, your talents, your association, your actions, and your self-confidence, your faith in yourself.
And so those of you, all of us have had that confidence challenged. Today I saw, as an example, the news again, because as we watch the news, it is pounding into us, this negativity. In Arizona, 299,000 cases. Well, I talked to my friend Scott Passmore, who you know, and the people at AZ Family asked Dr. Kara Christ, who is the state director, what are the actual contagious cases in the state? And she finally said probably under 20,000. So that's a little bit different. And so being aware
not reporting that, are they?
And not reporting that. So let's take control of our lives. Let's honor people in places of power, know that they've got challenges we know nothing about, but never giving up our autonomy, our independence to think and take in more information and be creative. Sharon, tell us about your business, how people can learn more and be part of one of your seminars. Let's start with that.
Well, thank you, Nick. I would invite everybody to connect with us. SharonLechter.com, SharonLechter.com. I am author Sharon Lechter on Facebook. I'm Sharon Lechter on Instagram and LinkedIn. We have on my website, SharonLechter.com, you can find out more about my events or about my mentorship opportunities, my online programs. Reach out to me, email me. We'd love to hear from you and answer any questions you have. info@SharonLechter.com. And I challenge you because people, I make this offer and then we hear for so few people. We are here. We want to serve you. We want to support you. So reach out. My challenge to you is email us info.
Don't be intimidated. This is a real human being with a big heart. And if I can help too, reach me on Facebook and I'll connect you directly with Sharon. Tell us about Pay Your Family First.
Pay Your Family First is my financial education company. And as Nick indicated, Angela Topman is my right hand, and she has been with me for 20 years. I hired her as an intern out of ASU. And we are dedicated to providing the financial resources to help people with no matter where you are, to help you get to where you are today, to where you deserve to be. And that is financially confident. And so we want to support you, and we will find the right path and the right journey for you, no matter where you are today. And so that's our goal. See, we support people one individual at a time, one wallet at a time. We want to support you.
And that's our power too, by the way. Some of us get caught up thinking we have to change the world. It happens one person at a time. Last question for you, Sharon Lechter. First of all, thank you so much for being part of this. And during Thanksgiving week, I get emotional too much, but I don't care. What are you grateful for?
Oh my gosh, I'm so grateful for every day is a gift. So I'm thankful for the people that I surround myself with, including you, Nick. I'm so thankful for my family. I'm thankful that we have a God that is not going to let us handle more than we can. You know, we get our trials and our tribulations. All of us have had things that stopped us in our tracks, a lot of them in 2020, but many times we've had a death, a divorce, a setback financially, illness, but we're still here. We're still here for a reason. And so when you sit back and go, okay, instead of feeling like you've been trampled on, let's say, okay, I'm still here for a reason and I've survived. And I now have an opportunity to help others going through the same thing. You may find your purpose when you start looking at it. So changing your perspective. And I am thankful that I can help people identify new opportunities. I'm grateful for the people that are part of my community. And most of all, I'm just grateful to be alive and to be able to support people in choosing the next best chapter of their life.
Sharon Lechter, again, truly global financial literacy expert, but never forgetting the individual she is. Outwitting the Devil, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Think and Grow Rich, and yet her greatest accomplishment is the next one. Thank you so much. Love you very much. During this Thanksgiving week, I just want to say, everyone, as we always say, it's not the spotlight on you. It's the intensity of the light within you that matters. God bless you and happy Thanksgiving. Bless you all.
Happy Thanksgiving. Thank you, Nick.